Good morning. We'll call this meeting of the Bucks County Commissioners, February 4th, 2026 meeting to order. And we'll begin with the pledge, and our Emergency Health Training Director, Ian Liberator, will lead us in the pledge. So this is February, and of course, that's the month of hearts and love. So it made us think that we really needed to invite emergency management here, and Ian specifically, to talk to us a little bit about CPR. And before we do that, Jean DiGirolamo will read the proclamation for today.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whereas according to the American Heart Association, on average, more than 2,500 people, or for every 34 seconds, die each day in the United States from cardiovascular diseases. Each year, more than 350,000 cardiac arrests occur outside of a hospital in the United States, and more than 70% of those occur at home. During American Heart Month, the American Heart Association is urging people to have one person in every home learn CPR and be the difference for someone you love when it matters the most. Each person can take an active role in reducing their risk of heart disease by eating a healthy diet, engaging in physical activities, and managing cholesterol and blood pressure. Whereas the County of Bucks County, through its Emergency Health Service Department, strives to promote understanding of, education about, and accessibility to emergency services in the county. Now, therefore, we, the Board of the Bucks County Commissioners, Chair Diane Ellis Marseglia, Bob Harvey, and myself, hereby proclaim February 2026 as American Heart Month throughout the County of Bucks. In so doing, we commend the Emergency Health Services Department for their year-round dedication to educating people about heart disease, strokes, and accessibility to life-saving measures. We encourage all citizens in Bucks County and beyond to consider learning CPR and the use of AEDs to one day be able to save a life. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And we'd like to ask Mr. Liberator to come to the microphone and tell us what's going to happen today.
Hello, and good morning, and thank you for having me. As you said, my name is Ian Liberator. I do work for the Bucks County Emergency Health Services. I've been with them for almost 4 years now. I have also been an active certified EMT for about 17 years, working at multiple squads in both Bucks County and Montgomery County. So yes, I want to take a couple minutes and go over CPR and what we can do. I was asked to create a 3 to 5 minute presentation on some fun facts about CPR and how we can remember what to do in the emergency. Unfortunately, I would say there is no fun way about presenting cardiac arrest, but there are a few tidbits that I can absolutely give for people to memorize. So, cardiac pulmonary resuscitation. In a nutshell, CPR is a life-saving technique that can help save a life during cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest is when the heart stops or the heart beats too inefficiently. This will help circulate oxygenated blood, key term oxygenated blood, to the brain and other vital organs. Some science mumbo jumbo. Cardiac arrest occurs when the heart's electrical system malfunctions, causing it to stop beating suddenly. Not to be confused with a heart attack, which is when oxygenated blood from the heart is reduced or blocked. The longer blockage occurs, the more of the affected heart tissue begins to die. This is also called myocardial infarction or an MI. Some facts, as one of the commissioners had already said, an average of 350,000 people suffer from cardiac arrest every year. Every minute CPR is not performed, there is a 10% less chance of survival. There is about 6 to 10 minutes worth of oxygen in an adult when they go into cardiac arrest that just needs to be circulated with compressions. And for children, there's about 3 to 5 minutes. AEDs, or automated external defibrillators, are more readily available than ever before. And the number one reason CPR is not given is because the bystander is not trained or is afraid to do so. Now, difference when doing CPR, there's several different versions out there. There's the medical provider, which is what we do on the ambulance, in the hospital, doctor's office, fire, QRS, and all those other agencies, police, security. And then there is what we call the layperson CPR, which is what they will do, the hands only. So here are the differences between the two. Some people are going to say, oh, well, on TV I saw it this way, so do I need to do it the exact same way? No, you do not. There's very few steps that you need to remember as the layperson. So when it comes down to the very beginning, you need to check response for both situations by tapping the shoulders or doing a sternum rub. For the love of God, don't ever slap a patient's face. Don't ever do that. That'll be when someone records you. But that you want to do that for both scenarios, both as a medical provider and as a layperson. Check response of the person. If there is no response, then we're going to be going into CPR. For hands-only CPR, you are only going to be checking breathing. So you want to see if there's chest rise and fall. Medical trained CPR people are going to be checking for a pulse as well. Whenever I teach first aid classes, we don't teach checking for a pulse. Some people say, well, can I still check for one? And I would say, if you know and are confident in checking for a carotid pulse, which is up here, then you're more than welcome to do so. But checking breathing is efficient enough. You want to ask for help, call 911, and get an AED if it's available in all scenarios. Medical CPR will do 30 compressions in 2 breaths. And then hands-only CPR will perform constant compressions. And you might wonder, well, don't I need to give breaths? Don't they need oxygen? As I said earlier, there is 6 to 10 minutes worth of oxygen in your system that just needs to be circulated. So if you call 911, they should get there roughly within that 6 to 10 minute range. Mouth-to-mouth is something that is not done as much anymore. It is still taught. You can do it for loved ones and for children, but I always tell my students, if you're out at Applebee's and someone goes down next to you, you are not required to do mouth-to-mouth on a stranger unless you have a barrier device. Now, I talk about barrier device. Here are 3 different barrier devices. A face shield is a one-time plastic sheet that goes over a face. It's almost a keychain size. I keep it on my book bag. It goes over the face, and there's a little filter over where the mouth is so you know where to breathe. Next one over is a pocket mask. This is more firefighters, EMTs might carry these. I carry one of these in my car. You can get this on Amazon for 12 to 15 bucks. Maybe if you carry it in a purse or a book bag, you can do that, but no one's gonna carry these on their person. And then next is a bag valve mask, also known as a BVM. You're gonna see these on ambulance, fire service, hospital, doctor's office. You're not gonna have these in your car, and if you are, I'm gonna have some questions. Moving on to the next one. All right, so now we are going to do 1 minute of actual hands-only CPR, no breaths, just doing constant compressions. You guys may have been taught to do CPR to the song Staying Alive. There are about 120 songs on the American Heart Association website that you can do. So you're gonna get a taste of what goes through my mind when I'm doing compressions. Would someone like to come down and join me?
Oh, Commissioner Harvey volunteered.
I believe that's told voluntold.
It's serious here.
It's serious, that's right. Saving a life. Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, go ahead and play the video. All right, we are going to tap the shoulders for response. No response. We are then going to check for breathing. I put my hand on the chest, feel for a chest rise. We have no chest rise, so we're going to do constant.
If you're tired, just ask for help, Bob. Oh, they're offbeat, look. See how they're off now, though. head movement was great. Thank you.
Do you have any questions, Commissioners?
Questions?
No?
No, I think we've got it. Thank you for coming. We appreciate that. Oh, okay. I think we should do that. Ian, do you want to take a picture with the proclamation here? We forgot about picture. Proof you were here.
Thank you very much.
Yep, welcome.
You got to get in the middle.
Congratulations, good job.
We'll move to public comment. And first is Fran Haller.
Commissioner Harvey, on February 5th, 2025, during public comment, I asked you if you, as chairman of the Board of Elections, had looked into the possible campaign finance fraud issues of your Democrat colleagues serving as Fall Township supervisors. If anyone cares to read about it, there's an in-depth article by Bradley Vasoli for Broad and Liberty dated January 27th, 2025. As an elected official, could you please answer if there was an investigation and what was uncovered? This is the third time I'm asking about this because there's so much fraud being uncovered these days, and you are aspiring to a higher elected office. It's concerning that this exposed fraud is occurring in the Democrat strongholds that have a population of illegal aliens. The uncovered fraud is now coupled with lawlessness that has devolved into chaos, all in the name of stopping ICE from deporting criminal illegal aliens. The grifters are furious that their gravy train has come to a screeching halt and are fomenting riots. Follow the money. Biden let in millions of unvetted illegals. Drug and human trafficking exploded. The drug cartels are not the only ones making bank on those trades. The NGOs are making millions helping illegal aliens. No wonder they're paying protesters to protect their interests. We had our own grifters and their useful idiots visit us here in this meeting room when Sheriff Herron signed the 287G agreement. There's a group that protests at Summit Square outside your political opponent's office. I wonder if they're paid protesters. We have a new sheriff that has withdrawn from the 287G agreement. We need law enforcement, not virtue signaling. And thank God those 8 of the worst criminal illegals in Bucks were apprehended under Sheriff Herron. Hopefully, they were deported and the Bucks County taxpayers are not paying for their incarceration. I'll leave you with this. In 1980, Democrat President Jimmy Carter opened his arms and heart to Fidel Castro's boatloads of criminal aliens. They wouldn't take them back. Heroin and cocaine proliferated in our cities. And now the Democrats are supporting the lawbreakers. That's the enemy within.
Michael Weiser.
Morning. My name is Michael Weiser. I'm a resident of Buckingham Township. And I'm here to discuss the disturbing contrast between our local needs and federal government's current spending priorities. This week, we learned the administration finalized an $87.4 million purchase of a warehouse in neighboring Berks County to convert it into a massive detention facility. This is part of a $45 billion federal push to turn industrial spaces into human inventory. To put that $87 million into perspective, it's more than 5 times the $16.4 million budget gap our county just had to close for 2026. While we're raising parking fees and property taxes in places like Doylestown to fund basic services, the federal government is pouring nearly $90 million into a single warehouse to house people in our own backyard. These facilities don't just cost us at the federal level. They hollow out our local communities. In Berks, that federal purchase will strip the county and school district of over $600,000 in annual tax revenue because federal land is tax exempt. When we treat people like inventory in 500,000 square foot warehouses, we aren't just losing money, we're losing our humanity. Under the Kayla Hamilton Act, we're seeing a push for tattoo-based profiling that will inevitably sweep up teenagers from our own neighborhoods, children who have lived here for years, and place them in a pipeline toward adult detention. Once inside, they're often coerced into labor for $1 a day. That isn't voluntary work. It's a business model for-profit companies like CoreCivic and Geo Group rely on to keep their margins high. Bucks County has recently taken a stand. I want to commend our Sheriff Danny Seisler for ending our agency's partnership with ICE earlier this year. It was a move that prioritized local trust and public safety over federal overreach. However, that autonomy is under threat by current bills in the PA Senate that seek to mandate local cooperation with this detention machine. While our housing authority wait lists for Section 8 and affordable senior housing remain clogged with families in desperate need of a roof, the machinery of detention is expanding without limit. We're choosing to fund cages at $150 per day while we nickel and dime the SNAP benefits that keep our local children fed for less than $6 a day. I'm asking the commissioners to publicly oppose any state or federal attempts to expand this warehouse model into our region. We need our tax dollars in our classrooms and our housing programs, not in for-profit detention centers. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Frederick.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the jobs you do. The Republican regime in Washington, D.C. has unleashed thousands of mass military-style secret police on the American city of Minneapolis. These squads of secret military troops are in fact banned by the U.S. Constitution. These secret ICE squads have been responsible for the death of 2 American citizens and the assault on countless more, and reported 32 deaths of people they have in their custody. Similar death squads have been witnessed in countries like Russia, Iran, China. Now, sadly, it seems the Trump MAGA Republican regime has joined this deadly group. This MAGA Republican regime has its enablers in Congress, one of them being Brian Fitzpatrick, who has been unable or unwilling to protect and defend the vulnerable citizens of this country as is required by the oath he took when he was sworn in. And I'll go back to July 4th, 1776. We threw off the political bonds of Great Britain and its king for a new form of freedom. The blood and tears of many patriots have been shed over the last 250 years. So let me read something here. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Now, some of the complaints that the Patriots had in those days are eerie similar to the ones we have now. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people. And the complaint was also for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. And the last, for depriving us, in many cases, of the benefits of trial by jury, which is also called due process. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Bob McLean.
Good morning. Robert McLean, Milford Township. My topic is naturalization. Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution states that one of the few and defined powers of the federal government is to establish a uniform rule for naturalization and to make laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing power. Upon reading the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Fact Sheet, anyone seeking U.S. citizenship must meet, with a few exceptions, at least the following: be at least 18 years old, show that you are a lawfully admitted permanent resident residing in the U.S. for at least 5 years, be a person of good moral character, which means not a murderer, felon, habitual gambler, alcoholic, deadbeat parent, adulterer, human trafficker, polygamist, giving false testimony on their application, student visa abuser, failure to attend removal hearing, and being a member of the Communist Party. You must be able to speak, read, write, and understand the English language. You must understand the fundamentals of U.S. history and principles and form of the U.S. government. You must demonstrate attachment to the principles of the U.S. Constitution and be well disposed to the good order and happiness of the United States. You must be willing to take the oath of allegiance, which requires support the U.S. Constitution and the laws of the U.S. from all enemies, foreign and domestic, renounce and abjure absolutely and entirely all allegiance and fidelity to the country you were previously subject to. This is the law. If you do not like it, then work to change the law through lawful means. After hearing all the laws that have been violated during the previous administration, why would a U.S. citizen choose to protest to protect a non-citizen criminal? What of the victims? Were there protests for them? There were not. What is exhibited by the protesters and politicians is not rational compassion, but toxic empathy, evidenced by prioritizing feelings over objective truths. The non-citizen criminal has violated our law, and certainly the non-citizen that has not complied with our lawful process is guilty as well. All should be removed. Now, I wonder how many of our current U.S. residents would meet these naturalization standards, and therein lies the problem. Thank you.
Chris Polly.
Thank you. Last month, I thanked Sheriff Danley Seisler for terminating 287G, which he did in the interest of public safety and to reassert trust between the local sheriff department and all residents in Bucks County. Important to recognize right action. I might thank him every time I make a public comment here. So thank you, Sheriff. With only 3 minutes, I wasn't able to get to my ask, which is for Bucks County to adopt a policy. Instead of rehashing concerns a policy would address related to the Constitution, 1st, 4th, 10th, 14th, and even now the Second Amendment, or the security, privacy, database, legal liability, financial risk, budget control, and genuine community concerns, not to mention any moral, ethical, or religious reasons that might apply, I want to focus today on existing local law enforcement policies. Reinvention's not required. Mimic what another respected and trusted entity has already created. The Pennsylvania State Police policy titled Enforcement of Civil Immigration Law was created as part of a lawsuit settlement in 2022 related to allegedly improperly stopping motorists to enforce federal immigration law. In addition to paying $865,000, the Pennsylvania State Police agreed to amend their civil immigration enforcement policy. Police did not admit wrongdoing. The policy covers civil immigration enforcement, which the policy defines as foundational to the public trust, and that is also consistent with the state police Call of Honor pledge, which was adopted in 1929, still used today. If you're not familiar, you should look it up and then thank a state trooper for his service. The purpose is to provide guidance to department personnel. Policy is not public-facing. It's rational, respects constitutional rights, defines department safeguards through procedures and designated contact points, is non-sanctuary as it fully supports federal immigration enforcement, and it helps protect the trooper. And aside, Pennsylvania State Police covers about 2/3 of the state as the only full-time or part-time police. If not a parent, the state police cover the most Republican areas of the state. I hope it is, in Purple Bucks County, a policy that all can back unanimously as nonpartisan. I ask Bucks County commissioners and the sheriff to consider a trust policy that mirrors the Pennsylvania State Police policy enforcement of civil immigration law. An internal policy will help protect the employees of Bucks County, regardless of their political leaning. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Dominic?
Good morning. My name is Sarah Dominic. I'm a resident of Central Bucks. I'm a teacher for the visually impaired at the Bucks County Intermediate Unit. I worked in early intervention, birth to 5, for 27 years. Recently, the Intermediate Unit has decided to end their contract with early intervention with BARC. I wanted to speak upon the necessity of these services and supports. In early intervention, we go into the homes very early. Sometimes I've had students as young as 3 months old, not knowing what to do with their infants who have visual impairments. Sometimes they don't even know what the visual impairment is. These families are devastated by the diagnosis that they've just received with their new infant. In these services, we help the families to not only get diagnosis, but understand the impact of their visual impairment and give strategies so that they can meet their milestones. For example, one of the students that I've worked with previously had a diagnosis of an eye turn. When I went to work with the student, his visual abilities did not support that diagnosis. We then went to the eye doctor to get a diagnosis of cortical visual impairment, which is how the brain is understanding the visual world. The student was not able to look at his grandmother's face when she was telling a story because of how his vision was impacting. We put in place strategies and implemented many different kinds of strategies to help him. And now today, he is a student who is in a typical education class with supports in the academic setting. I wanted to speak today to ask the commissioners to see if there's any possibilities of ways to continue to fund these critical supports in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy McGarren?
Good morning, Amy McGarren, Doylestown Township. I'd first like to thank the commissioners for their support and dedication in supporting mental health in our community. So thank you very much for that support. More importantly, I'd like to just talk for a minute today about election integrity and fair and free elections. I've had the opportunity to work both as a volunteer and as a temporary employee with the Bucks County Board of Elections. I've seen firsthand the integrity, how well everything's run, how questions are answered, and the support that we get on Election Day. And many of us are fearful about the 2026 election and election interference and keeping our elections fair and free. So I hope that this is a priority for the Board of Elections, for our county commissioners, and I'd also like to volunteer if there are any volunteer opportunities as far as education and support going up to the elections. I'd like to volunteer to assist with that, and I know lots of other people who, again, it is really a priority, and we want to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill Waldbeiser.
Hello. I'm Jill Waldbeiser, Middletown Township. I am the parent of a deaf child, and he was served by the Intermediate Unit Services 10 years ago. I'm also speaking on behalf of a lot of other families who couldn't be here today. And I want to start with one of them. She's currently, her son, Gabriel, this is Mary Hortman. Her son, Gabriel, is currently receiving services through the county. The services through the IU were ended on February 1st. And she does say that the county has told us they've found providers for these families. I have concerns with these providers, though, as does this parent. She said that her child, who's hard of hearing, was assigned a speech-language pathologist. His specific needs and his legal service plan mandate a teacher of the deaf. And so these roles are not interchangeable. I don't know if everybody understands that if you're outside the community, but this is happening. This is one example that this has happened because the contract with the IU ended. So the services they're receiving are not equal, and other experts can speak to why that's so important. My other concern is that a lot of the providers who the county found are current providers who worked with the IU, but they're now doing this as second jobs. So they have a full-time caseload, and then they go at night and in their off hours and work with these families. That also is not a sustainable solution for this. This program's federally mandated early intervention services because they work. So the critical window from birth through age 2 is providing so much. If you can imagine how much a baby grows and learns during that time, and they're dealing with an often unexpected disability because 90% of deaf and hard of hearing children are born to hearing parents. That was my case with my son. We weren't expecting it. I have also concerns about another contract, a separate contract, to evaluate these children and diagnose them expired. And again, we've been replaced, a speech pathologist doing these evaluations for hard of hearing children, with a teacher of the deaf was replaced with a speech pathologist. Again, that doesn't give these families all the accessibility and options that they need. I don't know so far who's doing vision evaluations, and this program also handled orientation and mobility, and we don't know who's doing evaluations for those. So this is an issue that affects every single child, not only these families, but also every new child born with vision, hearing loss, or mobility and orientation issues in this county. So I believe that there's a solution to be found. I know funding is a big part of it. There's been a lot of confusion between the county and the state and who's responsible for what. Our state legislators have been on top of it. They've been very responsive to this. They want to solve this. And I'm asking that the county pay equal attention to this and figure out a way to fund and continue these programs sustainably in a way that works and can serve these children and everyone else born in Bucks County with these issues. So I thank you for taking time and attention to this matter.
I apologize if I don't say your last name correctly. Alexandra. I want to try it, but I'd rather have you just say it.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Dusekina. I am a resident at Quakertown. I would like to share my personal experience as a parent of profoundly deaf student who received 18 years of service at the Bucks County IU Hearing Support Staff hands. I don't know if any of you know the statistics. The average reading level of a deaf or hard of hearing student at graduation is a third grade level of reading. And that is completely depends on which services the student and the family receive. My son currently is studying applied physics and engineering at Cornell University, and I believe that birth to two services, which are covered in the first 3 years of the child's life, are fully responsible for my son's success. So for the child who is like my son using the auditory verbal mode of communication, I don't want to go into the American Sign Language, which is as important, a completely different mode of communication, and Bucks County IU have specialists for both. So the teacher of the deaf expertise spans between crucial elements of child development. They're teaching the child to listen, which a hearing person starts before they're born, but the deaf child, after they receive the equipment that gives them access to sound, need to learn how to listen. They help with the communication facilitation, the language acquisition. They're filling the gaps that the child has in their knowledge due to the lack of incidental learning. Deafness significantly reduces the incidental learning event, which is passive acquisition of knowledge. 80 to 90% of that is auditory, and the deaf child needs to have those gaps identified and filled by a professional who knows how to identify them and how to fix them. Every hour that the early intervention hearing support teacher spends with a student is tremendously impactful. This is a service provided to the whole family that educates us as parents, involved even the siblings, so that we could put the good practices and good habits in place, and then the child is learning every waking hour of every day, and everybody around them is a support system. So the information that family receives from the hearing support teacher and teacher of the deaf is put into work, and that's what helps them succeed, but also removes the taxing effect of doing all that later. The importance of early intervention is the brain plasticity, which is so crucial, and it really drops after the age of 5, is on our side. And all the positive impacts of the services provided at the first 3 years are compounded by the fact that the child's brain is able to put it to work and make a higher level connections. I would like to please ask you, find the ways to provide these crucial services, keep funding them, work with the state to find a solution. And if you need any parents or specialists who can educate the state in the importance of this, there is a big community that is happy to help. Thank you.
Nadine Miller.
Hello, my name is Nadine Miller, and I am a member of the Bucks IU Education Association. I'm a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. Because of the recent end of the contract between the Bucks IU and the county, the base service units have been scrambling to help families. In an effort to quickly figure out a way to provide services to these families, as their services from teachers of the deaf, teachers of the visually impaired, and orientation and mobility specialists have been abruptly stopped, speech therapists or special education teachers have been added to these children's individualized family service plans. Speech therapy or special education services alone are not adequate replacement for teacher of the deaf services or teacher of the visually impaired services or orientation mobility specialist. While speech-language pathologists play an important role in supporting communication, teachers of the deaf are uniquely trained to address the full impact of hearing loss on a child's language development, access to sound, early learning, and family support. For infants and toddlers, learning language is deeply connected to how they hear, see, and interact with their caregivers throughout the day. Teachers of the deaf specialize in helping families understand hearing technology, create accessible language environments, and support overall development in natural routines at home. Without these services, children are at a greater risk for delayed language, learning gaps, and long-term educational challenges that could have been prevented with appropriate early support. These early years laid the foundation for reading, academic success, and social-emotional growth. When children miss out on teacher of the deaf services early on, they're more likely to enter elementary school with language delays that affect reading, writing, classroom participation, learning across all subjects, and especially social and emotional development. As students move into middle and high school, these early gaps often grow, leading to increased need for special education services, academic supports, and challenges with self-advocacy and independence. The effect can continue into adulthood, impacting graduation rates, employment opportunities, and overall quality of life. Providing appropriate early services through Teachers of the Deaf is a proactive investment that reduces long-term educational and social costs while giving children the best chance to succeed. We ask that the county find a way to fund the continuation of these services.
Thank you. That's all we have for public comment today. So this is what I'm going to suggest. You didn't really have any questions, so I just want to say that I think we all stand up here, sit here and say, that we understand what you're saying. I don't think there could be anything scarier than being a new parent and to have this problem. And you actually perform miracles, and we get that, and we're grateful for you. Unfortunately, this is not our contract that was canceled. It was between BARC and the BCIU. And although the state representatives met with Ocdel and were initially told we could add some more money to things, that has been clarified to them by Ocdel that we are not permitted to do that. But to explain it better, because this is very confusing, I was going to ask our mental health and behavioral health staff to step outside and answer any questions you might have and try to work through that a little bit, if that would be okay. Do you mind meeting with everybody outside? Thank you. So they'll meet you outside if you want to talk about that a little further. Moving on to the agenda, I'm wondering if there is a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the minutes from the January 21st, 2026 meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, moving to the regular agenda. Sorry. Can't turn a page. On the regular agenda, we have the commissioners to approve a resolution, declaration of disaster of emergency on January 24th, 2026, related to the severe weather. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we have budget adjustments.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just to make you aware, over the next few meetings, we're going to be seeing a lot more budget adjustments as we work through the closeout process for allowing final expenditures to hit 2025. We'll be shifting available budget from departments that are underutilizing, shifting budget from contingency funds, or recognizing revenue that was unanticipated. So for your consideration today, I have budget adjustments number 27 through 29, which is the first of the series.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve, or any questions first on those budget adjustments? Is there a motion to approve adjustments 27, 28, and 29?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And is there a motion to approve the personnel actions for today?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And Commissioner Harvey, do you have board appointments for today?
Yes, thank you. Two reappointments to the Bucks County Mental Health Developmental Programs Board. Ms. Ada Miller is a reappointment, as is Kathy Cease. Both appointments will end January 3rd, 2029. I'll make a motion for those two appointments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And under other civics, we have the Delaware Valley Vietnam Veterans for $1,000, Kin Wellness and Support, $1,500, Puerto Rican Cultural Association of Bucks County for $2,000, and the Washington Crossing Council Scouting for America, $4,000. Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And our Chief Operating Officer's report?
Thank you, Commissioner. I just have two comments. One related to the emergency declaration. I'd just like to thank the staff that in general services, in all of our 24/7 agencies and departments, as well as our emergency management folks for all of their time and effort to keep operations going during that time. And then also related to the ARPA revenue, we just submitted our fourth quarter report for 2025, and the remaining balance is about $8.9 million, which will be spent over the course of 2026. And that concludes my report.
Solicitor's report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Two items. We had an executive session yesterday, February 3rd, to discuss personnel matters, discuss litigation, and to receive confidential legal advice. Second, I would like to publicly thank Ms. Gates for assisting the law department over the past few weeks. As you know, we've had some unexpected absences, and she's really stepped up and helped out the law department an awful lot. So thank you, Ms. Gates.
Thank you, and yes, well deserved. Commissioner comments, Commissioner DiGirolamo.
Yes, I would like to add a little bit on to Ms. Liz Gates, and if I might I be able to ask a couple of questions to our governor's paralegal?
Absolutely, please
I have
do.
a questions I'd like to ask. But no, Liz has done, believe me, Liz over the past couple of meetings has done an absolutely amazing job, Liz, and I want to thank you on behalf of not only the commissioners, but everybody else here. And she's doing a job because our usual paralegal, Kate Saul, is out on medical leave for a family member. And I just want to make sure that if everybody would say a prayer for Kate, and it's her husband, and they're going through some really difficult times right now with a medical issue. So I just want to ask everybody to keep Kate and her husband in your prayers. Very needed. And again, Liz, thank you. Appreciate your hard work.
Thank you indeed. Commissioner Harvey.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate having Ian here this morning from Emergency Services to do the demonstration for CPR and talk a lot about some of those basic things that I'm sure at some point, maybe in phys ed class, somebody learned somewhere. But I remember getting CPR trained, I think I was in college, but otherwise I haven't really done it since then. And it is certainly something to keep in mind. You never know where you're going to be, and it's interesting because our former commissioner, Mr. Warren, who was here at our meetings, did actually have an episode a couple of years ago, and thankfully the staff here were able to kind of save him, quite frankly. And so he was here, and I think the meeting afterwards, he was still here and came right back and thanked everybody publicly. But it's not a bad idea to keep an eye out for AEDs. I know that's something you see a lot of in places, and sometimes you can get sort of blind to them. If it's just a common thing, you just see it once in a while, you don't think of it. It's not a bad idea just to keep an eye out, and if, when you're out somewhere, you happen to see something, and just notice it and think, it's just a little mental note that that's where that is. I did, also want to thank, a little bit of the comments we had. Certainly, as somebody who's taught for 26 years in public schools, I had students in my class at various times who had, various, challenges, whether it was hearing or vision or learning disabilities, things of that nature, physical challenges, and certainly, we deeply appreciate the work. And as somebody again who taught for that long and knew a lot of people who are teachers, being a teacher of infants who are visually or hearing impaired, mobility impaired, that's a special calling, quite frankly. I do want to note that our mental health developmental programs or behavioral health developmental programs department has really been working tirelessly for the past month to make sure that all those families have their needs addressed. It is not unusual for some entity, a vendor, a nonprofit, who is doing work either directly with us or in this case with a nonprofit that we contract with, to at some point during the course of that contract just say, you know what, we thought we could provide this service, we thought we could do this work or provide whatever things they were providing, but we just can't do it, so we have to end the contract. And no one's questioning the IU's decision. I certainly don't fault them for it. Totally understand it. Totally appreciate the professionalism. And so when our agendas oftentimes have termination of a contract because a vendor says we just can't do this work anymore. Okay, and our department, usually purchasing especially, finds somebody who can do that. Or in this case, one of our human services agencies finds other entities who can do that. But they have worked very, very hard. It's been sort of a main priority for them, and I know Commissioner Marseglia has been deeply focused on this, given her background as a social worker working with families. She's been keenly aware of all this and working very, very hard on it. So I do want to make sure that gets attention, because I felt that there could be some connotation that our staff wasn't working hard on this, and they have been. So and I do appreciate that work. So thank you.
Thank you, and I'm stalling for a minute here because Donna Duffy Grimm had asked if she could come back in and make a comment, and she's in the hub, so she's right there, so I was hoping she could run past here and speak, so just give me 10 seconds. Sean said he found her, and she's coming. Yes, she's the director of our behavioral health program, and here she comes. Perfect timing, all right. She coming? Yeah. We're stalling till you can come in. You said you wanted to make a couple of remarks. I know, but if you wanted to say something during my remarks, just in general, to kind of clarify things.
Thank you, Commissioners. Again, we're meeting with a subgroup back there with more details. But I just did want to make a few clarifying points in terms of that all families who had been receiving services for kids birth through 2 at the IU, all families have been provided with options and a path forward. Which they have accepted that path. And just because a child may not receive the special instruction for vision and services and hearing services through IU teachers does not mean that they are not getting early intervention services of equal quality. I did also want to say that despite that there was some confusion in the press and, just informally on social media, OCDEL, which is the State Department that oversees early intervention, did confirm with us that neither county-based dollars nor county general funds can be utilized to supplement the medical assistance rate on these services. And then finally, I just wanted to say that we shouldn't be so hyper-focused on the rate because it's really beyond that. It's really a workforce issue, and across our state, and particularly in our region, there is a shortage of vision and hearing teachers. And so that's where I really think our efforts and focus should be, because I think despite the rate, the intermediate unit had to make a business decision about where they are putting limited resources. So that was it.
Thank you, that's all I wanted to thank you, and you can go right back to that meeting. Thank you, and is there a motion to adjourn today?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.